Oh, let's see. It says audio. Doesn't seem to be recording. I just want to make sure everyone is there. Let's see.
Stacy, my screen is showing that it says this session is being recorded.
It is, okay, because on my end it's not showing. That's wonderful. Okay, great. Just want to make sure we're recording today. Thank you, Jon. Sure. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Jon. Jon is a wonderful friend of PIHRA. He has more than 25 years of HR experience and has held senior leadership roles at several iconic companies, including eBay, Coca-Cola, Motorola, Nissan Motor Corporation, and General Dynamics. His HR career has taken him around the globe, working on-site and on location with HR teams in 19 countries and on 5 of the 7 continents. He's currently SHRM's Divisional Director West and the California Field Services Leader based in Sacramento. SHRM is the world's largest HR association with over 290,000 members in 160 countries, and he is focused on helping SHRM members and its 575 chapters to grow and thrive. And PIHRA is very excited to be one of the largest SHRM chapters in the country. I think maybe in the world, I'm not sure. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and let Jon take it away.
Great. Thanks, Stacy. Appreciate that. And I will see you, Stacy, at the California HR Conference in August in Long Beach. It's always a great event. If you haven't been to it, I strongly recommend that you check that one out. It's definitely worth the time and effort, and you make some great connections with some of your fellow HR professionals. I want to thank PIHRA for the invite to attend today's session. I also am really looking forward to giving you all a good deal of information. There's a lot of slides in here, and Stacy and the PIHRA team are going to take these slides and they'll send them out to you when we're done. The reason that's important is, some of us learn visually and some of us learn by reading the manual, and this is going to give you a lot of data, but there's a number of links that we've got embedded in these slides as well that will allow you to see video vignettes. And if you like to fix stuff by checking out a YouTube on how to actually fix it, this one's for you. So be sure to get a look at those slides and then download the links at a later time. As Stacy said, if you've got any questions, please ask them. This is a huge investment on your part relative to going and pursuing SHRM certification. So we want to make sure that you're really comfortable and that you've got the information that you need in order to make a really good decision. So I thought I'd do 2 things. I don't want to assume that everybody knows what SHRM is or you guys know who I am. And so I thought I'd take just a couple of minutes to talk about both. The first is SHRM is really the world's largest HR professional society. And what we really focus in on is we are in existence to develop and serve the HR professional. We're also really keen in advancing the HR professional, and that is a primary reason why we've got SHRM certification, and I'll explain a little bit more to give you some more flavor for that. We also believe that on behalf of our members, we're perfectly positioned to help lead the HR profession into the future, as well as making sure that they've got the resources, tools, and capabilities needed to be highly successful today. We've got a little over 290,000 members in 165 countries. There are 575 affiliate chapters. PIHRA is one of our affiliate chapters, as Stacy has indicated. They're one of our largest chapters, the strong partner down in the greater LA area. We also put on a large HR conference. In fact, it's the largest global HR conference on the planet. It happens every year in June. This year it will happen in Chicago. And we are expecting to have over 15,000 people be at that conference. This year's keynote speaker is Sheryl Sandberg. She's going to be fantastic. Meanwhile, here in the state of California, we've got over 24,000 California SHRM members. As Stacy indicated, before coming to SHRM about 4 years ago, I was a practicing HR practitioner. I kind of skewed large corporations, but I did a variety of things, everything from talent acquisition to running a global compensation group to being responsible for joint venture HR operations. And then I got into the HR generalist and then HR strategy space. I've worked for a variety of different companies, and the thing that I have found is that the way you practice human resources is actually very similar around the globe. What's different is the local culture as well as the local labor law, but the way you practice the craft is very, very similar. And so I don't know about you, but I think this profession matters. I think it's a really cool profession. I mean, you get the opportunity to work in multiple functional areas. You get the ability to work across industries. You have the ability to change a company through its culture. And most importantly, I think we as HR pros can have a very fundamental impact on an individual's life. And so I think us taking a look at certification as one way to make sure that we've got the skills and abilities to be highly successful is a great investment of your time. So we're going to talk about a few things today. We'll talk about, why SHRM certification, what's in it for you, why is it good for you. We'll talk about some eligibility requirements as well as when the exam windows open. We'll talk about what are the differences between the SHRM Certified Professional and the SHRM Senior Certified Professional, and which of those two should you take, which is really a personal decision, but we'll give you some greater insight and information to help you with that call. We'll talk about some things that you can do to prepare for the exam. This is a pretty significant exam. It takes about 3 hours and 40 minutes. So we'll talk about some tools that will help you be successful for that. And then we'll take a brief amount of time talking about recertification, which is once you're certified, how do you go about keeping that certification fresh and up to date and your knowledge fresh and up to date so you don't have to go back through a 3 hour and 40-minute exam again ever in your life. And then, of course, we'll spend some time on Q&As. In fact, if you've got questions while we're going through this, be sure to chat those down there so that we can address them as we're going forward. I think that there's really no better time than now for you to invest in yourself. And I commend those of you who are on the phone today in finding out more about SHRM certification because it really, truly is a very significant in yourself. It really is job one today, which is to make sure that you're prepared not only for today, but for the future. And when we're talking about SHRM certification, this is really about getting ready for the way HR is practiced today and the way it's evolving over the next several decades. Now, one way to invest is to ensure that you've got the skills and abilities or competencies that are recognized by the world's largest HR association, and that, of course, would be through SHRM certification. And this is the SHRM competency model. It is at the core of what SHRM certification is all about. And really what we're talking about here is your ability to take knowledge and do something with it. You're going to see a fundamental difference between how our certification is structured and how other certifications might be structured, in that this does test you on HR knowledge and expertise, but more importantly, what it tests you on is your ability to apply that. So at the end of the day, most employers, and I would say all employers, yeah, they want you to understand how to practice HR and they want you to understand the compliance elements. But what they really want you to do is to bring that special expertise that you have and apply it to the business. And you do that through a variety of ways. It's by understanding the business. It's by being able to evaluate data. It's about your ability to consult with clients, communicate effectively, and also establish relationships. And so we'll talk a little bit about how that embeds itself in the certification itself. But I thought what would also be helpful for you is, like, what's in it for you? So what might hours and hours of test preparation and then a 3 hour and 40-minute exam and the anxiety of preparation do for you? Well, let's look at some data. This is actually based on a survey done by an independent third party. It was conducted from people who were either sitting for or about to attain SHRM-CP and SHRM-SCP certifications, as well as the general population. And remember, there are over 106,000 people who are SHRM certified today. And here's what we found out. First of all, we found out that people who go through the process of pursuing certification, those that study for the exam, actually find that they develop a greater understanding of the necessary skills that are required in human resources. So just studying for the exam, we're not even talking about passing it. We're talking about studying for it. You get great benefit from that. Second, what we found is that actually people who have earned the SHRM Senior Certified Professional report that their salary earnings are actually $17,000 more on average than those in similar positions who do not have their certification. And for those who have obtained the SHRM Certified Professional, we found that those people on average make $5,500 more than those who do not. And on the subject of promotion, 68% of certified professionals reported that they believe that their credential was a key factor in them receiving a promotion. What's in it for employees and employers? Well, for employers, what we also found is that senior certified professionals also reported a much greater likelihood to stay with their organizations after earning their certification. So it creates this greater stickiness with the company because they understand the business better and they feel confident in being able to assist the business. Now, a really interesting stat, which is pretty interesting, is that we also found that people who actually sat for the exam found the experience not only satisfactory, but a very important learning experience. So there was even great satisfaction with the process of taking a 3-hour and 40-minute exam. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't say that when I walked out of my SAT exams that I was completely satisfied and happy with it. But we're actually finding a large number of folks that do say that when they complete SHRM certification. Now, let's begin by looking at this visual, which is what you're looking at here is the SHRM body of competency and knowledge, and it's the driving force behind SHRM certification. Now, what the box shows is that technical HR experience, which are the green blocks here, they really serve as the foundation for what we do. But there are other things that are expected of us by our employers and by our businesses. And what those are behavioral competencies, and they're built upon our HR knowledge and the added depth and strength as our ability as business leaders. Now, through all of these competencies combined, what we find is we actually help drive business outcomes and we contribute to our organization's success. And through that, we also attain significant individual success and satisfaction. So you probably have heard a lot about the SHRM competency-based certifications. And what a competency really is your ability to take knowledge and then have the skills, abilities, and exhibit the behaviors to be able to bring those competencies to life and to actually make an impact in the business. Now, as the leading advocate for HR professionals worldwide, what SHRM did is we conducted intensive and exhaustive research and study, and that study included employers, practicing HR professionals, and academics at all levels. And we asked them to define the competencies and knowledge relevant to today's HR professionals, and in future view, what's it going to look like in the future? And what they came back with is these 9 competencies built upon the bedrock of HR knowledge and expertise. So these 9 competencies are what that extensive research, that academic research, that research with business leaders as well as HR professionals, they said these are the behaviors as well as the knowledge and expertise really required to be successful in HR. And so if you want to go deep on this and you really want to understand what the competencies all are about, you have the ability to actually look at the SHRM body of competency and knowledge, and it's available at this website here. As I said, you'll get these slides at the end of this session. Now, all the SHRM certifications, all of these tests, which have been accredited, by the way, by the Burroughs Testing Institute, are all built on a bedrock of certification. And what the certification exams do are really built for the certified professional for the early exams or early career and mid-level practitioners, really the SHRM-CP, while the SHRM-SCP or the SHRM Senior Certified Professionals really focused in as an exam for senior level and executive practitioners. Now, SHRM credentials provide a reliable indicator to the global business community that the credential holder has the necessary capabilities in both aspects of HR, all right? And it also describes the behavioral competencies and technical knowledge that we've tested for on the SHRM-CP and the SHRM-SCP exam. So if you want to go deeper and understand the competencies at a more granular level, by all means, go ahead and pull down the box. So why the SHRM Certified Professional and the SHRM Senior Certified Professional? Why should you spend the time pursuing this? Well, the reality is the future of HR is actually here, and the question is, are you ready for it? And here are 5 top ways that your organization will benefit from SHRM certification. So earlier we talked about what those benefits were for you. Now let's talk about what those benefits would be for your business as well as for your employer. The first one is that SHRM certifications directly link to on-the-job scenarios and realistic work situations. They're really about current and relevant knowledge. And to maintain the industry-leading levels of excellence and relevancy, SHRM brought together some of the best minds in the HR profession to review and validate the SHRM certifications. The second is this is really focused on advancement. It's focused on your advancement. Both credentials are based on the current HR landscape, but they're focused on the competencies and knowledge HR professionals need to lead in today's business climate. And a fact of that is that there are more than 5,000 employers that are seeking SHRM credential holders every month. We actually track job openings that require SHRM certification. It's developed with employers in mind. It's based on in-depth research focused on and backed by global employers and business leaders. And the SHRM-CP and the SHRM-SCP credentials reflect what HR practitioners need to know to be leaders in their organization and in their profession. All SHRM certifications, both the SHRM-CP as well as the SHRM-SCP exams, are accredited by the Bureau Center for Testing, showing that the HR credentials meet the highest standards in testing. Now, as I mentioned earlier, although you may not be practicing in a global corporation, they're globally applicable and they're also universally recognized. Being built upon that BOC, which we talked about earlier, SHRM certifications are applicable across industries, across geographic borders, across job responsibilities, as well as multiple career levels. Now, whether your organization's got a global focus or not, customers and talent come from anywhere. And so a universal set of skills is what is preferred in the market today. And at the end of this, it's all backed by the leading advocate for HR professionals. These are state-of-the-art certifications offered by SHRM. As I indicated before, it's your HR global organization with over 285,000 members in more than 165 countries. And for more than 60 years, SHRM has supported more than 100,000 employers and over 140 million employees worldwide. And that's why we're the industry leader in HR professional development as well as resources. It's a primary reason why we built the exam. And since its launch just a few years ago, over 106,000 HR professionals in more than 105 countries have made the commitment to become SHRM certified, and they're focusing on developing their skills and what they know will spell success. So why earn SHRM certifications? The first thing I want to mention here is that they're competency-based. To start with, it's the first global HR credential that is based on the application of knowledge to drive business results. Not just knowledge itself, but your ability to apply it. And it's about the impact you drive for your businesses as well as the profession. And you got to ask yourself, what's your employee prefer and what are they looking for? Are they looking for somebody who's got HR knowledge, or are they looking for somebody that's got the ability to implement and the ability to impact the business? The profession's no longer about what you know, the facts and figures, but rather it's about how effectively you implement that knowledge in the workplace each and every day. And so SHRM certs provide you the opportunity to prove that not only you know what you know, but you can apply that knowledge on the job. The second is that SHRM credentials are very relevant to today's workplace. SHRM certifications directly link to on-the-job scenarios and realistic work situations. It makes them the most relevant certifications available for HR professionals today. And a little bit later on in the presentation, I'm going to actually show you some sample questions so you get to see by what I mean when I say they're relevant and related to on-the-job scenarios. In fact, 75% of examinees said that the SHRM-CP and the SHRM-SCP exams are more job relevant than any other HR certification. Now, the credentials are also universally applicable. And what we mean by that is because it's built upon the comprehensive SHRM body of competency and knowledge, and because we went out and we validated that information with global practitioners across industries, across geographic borders, across different job responsibilities and different career levels, whether your organization has a global focus or not, customers and talent come from anywhere. And again, they're universally set of skills, and they're the skills that are preferred. You're going to also see that when we get to talking about what are the requirements in order to sit for the exam. The whole concept of exempt and non-exempt is a U.S. law. It's the Fair Labor Standards Act. This is a globally applicable certification that you're investing in here. And so this whole concept of exempt and non-exempt is meaningless outside of the borders of the United States. So what we're looking for is HR experience, regardless of whether it be at the exempt or non-exempt level. The credential itself is focused on your advancement. The SHRM-CP and SHRM-SCP credentials are based on the current HR landscape, and they're focused on the competencies and knowledge HR professionals need to lead in today's business community. Now with it, you can boost your confidence in taking the next step in your HR career, and you can also distinguish yourself in any job search that you undertake. The SHRM credentials are strategic. They're based on in-depth research. They're focused on global business perspective, and the SHRM-CP and the SHRM-SCP credentials reflect what HR practitioners need to be leaders in their organizations and in their profession. And as I mentioned earlier, all of our certifications, the SHRM-CP and the SHRM-SCP exams, are accredited by the Burroughs Center for Testing, asserting that the HR credentials meet the highest standards in testing. There are other organizations out there offering multiple different types of exams and certifications. I don't believe they can say that all of their certifications have been accredited. Now, the SHRM credential, as I mentioned earlier, it's also backed by SHRM, the world's largest organization. So you've got our seal of assurance and approval that we will continue to make this relevant. We will continue to update the question sets as the profession continues to evolve. This is not a static test. It's not going to test you on the way that you practice HR 5, 10, 15 years ago. It's going to test you on your ability to practice the craft today as well as in tomorrow. So, you know, it's one thing to have a SHRM representative talk about how cool SHRM certification is. We thought we'd give you a couple of video vignettes. These are actually 90-second videos that you can download and check out once you get the slides. But these are real people just like you, folks who are HR practitioners who sat for the exam, and they talk about their experience, not only in prep for the exam, but why they chose SHRM certification. So I strongly recommend that you check a couple of these out. If you're looking for a real comprehensive brochure, right, you're going to spend 45 minutes on this call with me. You're going to get these slides. But sometimes you want something like real quick and easy that you can go to. And so we actually have a brochure that you can download. It's about 4 pages long. It's going to give you lots of information in there. It'll give you information about what's needed to understand how to prepare for the exam. It'll help you determine your eligibility, determine which exam you should take. It'll also talk about what the dates are for the 2018 exams as well as the cost. So again, when you get this slide, download this brochure. I think you're going to find it very, very helpful. So what's the difference between the SHRM Certified Professional and the SHRM Senior Certified Professional? It's really about the area of focus and the depth of the focus. So they use the same material, they use the same book of competency and knowledge, but the SHRM-CP is more operationally focused, while the SHRM Senior Certified Professional really focuses more on the strategic elements of HR. So for example, the Certified Professional really is focused and designed on folks who want to test themselves and is designed for folks who have primarily an operational role. In other words, you implement policy, you perform day-to-day HR functions, or you're the point of contact for staff and stakeholders. If you're looking to pursue the SHRM Senior Certified Professional, that's usually focused at folks who've got a strategic role or who are striving for a strategic role. That's really about folks who develop policy and oversee HR operations. Folks who are responsible for aligning HR strategy to organizational goals. And it's also for folks who analyze performance metrics. Now, there's dramatic differences in the pass rates on both of these exams. And I'll tell you why I think those pass rates are so different. The CP, the SHRM Certified Professional, it's got a pass rate around 70% or so. The SHRM Senior Certified Professional has got a pass rate of probably the low to mid 50th percentile. And here's what I think drives it, is when we get to the requirements, you're going to see that it requires X number of years of experience to sit for this Senior Certified Professional. And I think what happens is folks say, okay, I've got 7 years of experience, but if what you've been doing is operational HR, they underestimate the level of studying and commitment they're going to have to make to really learn the strategic elements of the SCP. And so as you look at which exam to take, make sure that if you do decide to go after the Senior Certified Professional, that you do focus in on more of the strategic elements that are in the SHRM learning system. So this is how the exams differ. As you can see, one is a little bit longer than the other. And it's really about area of focus, right? So the SHRM Certified Professional focuses in about 35% behavioral competencies, 20% on people, 20% on organizations, 15% on workplace, and 10% on strategy. Both exams have got about 90 knowledge questions, but you're going to see a lot more what are called situational judgment questions on the SHRM Senior Certified Professional. And what a situational judgment question is we give you a scenario and we say, here's what's happening inside the workplace. How would you solve this problem? A knowledge question is usually more about identifying the skill required. Situational judgment questions are really more about how would you solve that knowledge and how would you apply your knowledge and your understanding of what it would take to make it happen. And as you can see, the Senior Certified Professional, much heavier focus on behavioral competencies, as well as a heavier focus on strategy. By the way, when we say to up to 30 field test items, those are additional questions that are in the exam. And those are test questions for the test. In other words, those are questions that we're testing out for future copies of the exam. The test itself takes about 3 hours and 40 minutes to take. It's also administered at a Prometric site. A Prometric site is a professional testing organization. When you enter the testing facility, you'll have to validate you are who you are. So in other words, show your driver's license. They'll probably wand you down similar to like at the airport and make sure that you don't have a computer or watch or a cell phone with you. And the person sitting next to you will probably be taking a test on nursing, and another person might be taking one on finance. They specialize in testing. And so it's a very, very strict testing protocol that you go through when you do take the exam. Here are the actual exam requirements. Remember, as I indicated earlier, this is a globally applicable exam. So when we talk about the requirement for 3 years in an HR role, it could be either at the exempt or at the non-exempt level. And what SHRM considers a year in HR and an HR role is 1,000 hours of experience in HR, and that's a year of experience. So again, as you can see, they can be at the exempt or non-exempt level. If you have a HR-related bachelor's degree, it's 3 years in an HR role plus that degree to sit for the CP. If you have an HR degree at the bachelor's degree level, it's 6 years in an HR role plus the degree. If you've, I was reading the less than bachelor's degree. It's a bachelor's degree, go back to that. Bachelor's degree in an HR related degree. It's 1 year in an HR role. That's a lot better, isn't it? It's 1 year in an HR role and 4 years in an HR role for the SCP. If you have a graduate degree, if you're currently in an HR role, you can sit for the certified professional. If you have a graduate degree and you want to sit for the SHRM Senior Certified Professional, it's 3 years in an HR role. Now, something brand new that we've started, and it's not on this chart, There are about 400 institutions across the country, and there are at least 5 of them in the state of California that have aligned their HR degree programs to the SHRM Book of Competency and Knowledge. Those schools that have gone through that process do have the ability that their students, if they earn up to 500 hours of HR experience, they can sit for the exam upon graduation, provided the school nominates them for sitting for the exam. Those students then can also, once they pass the exam, they've earned the Certified Professional, and then they just need to gather the additional hours of experience. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the exam windows as well as the fees. We actually have 2 windows. The first window of the year runs from May through July, so we're in the middle of the spring exam window right now. You should have already applied for the exam if you were going to take the test in this window. The next exam window goes from December 1st through February 15th. You can send in your application. You could have sent it in starting May 14th, and then late applications are eligible to be submitted on November 9th. Both of the exams, the application fee is $300 for SHRM members and $400 for non-SHRM members. By the way, these windows, these dates replicate themselves from year to year. So next year, in the springtime frame of 2019, these dates will be May 1st through July 15th of 2019 as well. Again, if you've got questions after this and after the phone call, you can always go to shrmcertification.org/apply, and all this information is available for you. For those of you who like to look at video, we also have got a really cool video that talks you and walks you through how you can prepare for SHRM certification. It's available on YouTube, all right? And as I said, these links you can get to once we send the slides to you. So the $64 question that we often get is, how do you best learn? In other words, how do I prepare for this exam? Should I prepare by myself? Should I prepare with others? Should I prepare in a classroom? Should I do it online? Should I take the 7-week class, or should I take the 3-day course? The reality is that's really answered by you. How do you best learn? Some folks are great self-learners that can do this all by themselves. Others want to join study groups or be in a classroom so that they can be around other people and actually talk through the material that they're reading to develop even a greater understanding of what you've got. My son, for example, all online. He takes a lot of his classes online. He thrives in that environment. He's highly successful in that. Me, I need to be in a classroom. I need to be with other students. I need to be taking a class. Now, the choices that you get when you get to a classroom or the virtual option, quite frankly, is do you take a 7-week or a 3-day course? My recommendation would be that if you do take the 3-day course, is that you use that as a finishing lesson. In other words, you do all the self-study you can. You determine, hey, I'm pretty good. I think I'm set. I just need something to kind of polish off all this learning that I've done. Those are the folks I would recommend the 3-day course to. If you haven't cracked a book and you go to the 3-day class and expect to get certified smart in 3 days and be ready for the exam, I think that's a pretty far reach. There are some people that have successfully done that, but I think that's tough. At the end of the day, one of the things that I do want to stress that I do think is really, really important is that you secure for yourself the SHRM learning system. It's really one comprehensive system to prepare you for success. And what I would tell you, beware, out in the marketplace right now, there are some providers that are selling materials that say, hey, buy our learning material and it'll prepare you for either the SHRM certifications or the legacy certification. These tests are structured so fundamentally differently that I believe that's a recipe for disaster. So whatever you do, make sure that you secure the appropriate learning materials to prepare for the competency-based exam. We strongly, of course, recommend the SHRM learning system. It's really designed for professionals, and it provides a number of things. First, What the SHRM learning system does, it includes diverse learning options. It's got 4 different learning options available for you so that you can choose the option that's best to you and matches your schedule. Second, the learning system is affordable. The SHRM learning system provides you content. It provides you sample tests. It provides you quick start video guides. It provides you learning tools and access to expert advice for preparation. You'll actually save time and money by choosing one of the complete preparation programs. It's about convenience. I mean, you can travel light with online access via any mobile device, tablet, or computer. You just log in and continue where you left off studying. What a lot of people do is they use their mobile phones and leverage the flashcards that are in the learning system. So when you're waiting in line for, the cappuccino or latte at a Starbucks, you can take a minute and do some self-testing. And of course, that access is available 24/7. It's got the most up-to-date current content. It's updated and it aligns to the 2018 SHRM BOK. That way it ensures that you're preparing with the most current and relevant content. And it's immediately applicable. The SHRM learning systems help you to gain foundational HR knowledge, and it teaches the application of behavioral competencies in real-life situations, which again, as I mentioned earlier, it helps you to enable you to drive your organization forward. In other words, just studying for the exam is going to make you a better and stronger HR practitioner. Now, the way the learning system is put together, there are actually 4 modules, and 3 of them are focused on HR technical expertise, and those are people, organization, as well as workplace. And as you can see, within each of these headings, there are different HR functional work areas that you're going to get exposed to. The 4th module is focused on the HR behavioral competencies. These are really business competencies that HR professionals need to exhibit in order to be successful. They're the types of things that you leverage in your everyday work. And what those are going to be focused around are leadership and navigation. They're going to be focused around ethical practice, business acumen, your ability to understand the business in which you operate, consultation, the critical evaluation of data. And we all know this is becoming more of a data-oriented world. In fact, there's a saying in business, "In God we trust, all others must bring data." It's going to also focus in on consultative skills, critical evaluation, relationship management, global and cultural effectiveness, and then, of course, communication. So I thought what I'd do is show you what a sample situational judgment test question looks like. Remember, the SJT test, the situational judgment test questions, are really questions based on real-life issues. It's an issue that you've either dealt with today or you may have to deal with it in the future. So I'll give you a moment to read this. This is what a test question would actually look like, okay? And as you can see, it gives you a scenario. And I think as many of you are reading this, you're going to say to yourself, you know what? That's real. I mean, I deal with that as an HR professional all along. Now, what we do then is we ask you questions, and this is pretty important here. Notice we haven't asked you a question that says, which labor law applies? Your employer doesn't care which labor law applies. What they are really keen to make sure that you can do is that you know what's the action that you need to take based on your knowledge and expertise to create change in the right outcome for your business. Now, have you ever had a boss, a client, a supervisor, or a CEO ask you which labor law applies? What they really want you to do is just help them solve the problem. And this is what we mean by relevant. It's business focused. It's about competencies. It's simply not the regurgitation of wonky labor law citations. Now, here's what the answer actually is. The actual answer is the situation calls for proficiency in relationship management and communication, those 2 behaviors that we talked about. The best possible answer addresses relationship management while providing effective feedback. So B is actually the best answer here, right? Now, hopefully many of you got it. Now, you'll also notice that there are some others in there that, yeah, you could do any of these things, but B is going to give you the superior result. So I hope that helps you in understanding what a situational judgment question looks like. The exam's got a number of these embedded in it, and so that's why it's really important to understand the context of how you make decisions in HR and the actions that you take to implement results. People who study for the exam and folks that come out of the test oftentimes say, wow, they had a couple of test questions in there that I actually had to deal with at work 6 months ago. So it's highly, highly relevant. So at this point, we've talked about what's in it for you. We've talked about what's in it for your company. We've talked about which of the two exams you should take, the CP or the SCP. And then we also talked about what the requirements are to take it and what's the best way to study and how do I get the materials to study. The other thing I want you to be aware of is PIHRA and SHRM really want you to have the best of both worlds. And so PIHRA is offering a number of classes for both the SHRM Certified Professional and the SHRM Senior Certified Professional. The instructor is Mike Letizia. Mike is awesome. He's great. Mike's been doing this for several years. He's actually one of our go-to people that we go to not only for SHRM certification, but also for the new California micro-credential. The courses for online orientation is July 27th at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Mike's going to be running a pre-course online orientation. He'll talk about what he's going to do and how they're going to do this. And then there's also a 3-day exam review class, which will be held in Long Beach on Friday, August 24th through Sunday, August 26th from 8 to 5 p.m. And if I recall correctly, that is right around the time that the PIHRA conference takes place down in Long Beach. So again, check out PIHRA.org/HR certification to register for educational programs for SHRM certification.
Thank you, John. This is Stacy. I'm going to just jump in real quick and just mention that one of the questions that popped up is someone's asked if they already have the SHRM learning system and plan to use it to self-study, is there a specific order in which they should go through the modules? And I'm going to, I wanted to bring it up because if you have the SHRM learning system and are doing a self-study, then, you know, kind of as you said, John, the 3 days a great option at the end to tack on that review. And then we do give you a discount if you've already purchased the materials. So just want everyone to know that if you go to the website and you won't see that on there, but you'll need to email us and we will give you a code to register for the class if you already have the current materials. But with regard to the specific order to go through the modules, I think that's maybe something, I know Mike is actually on the call and he might want to just say something real quick about that because we are at our time and I do want to be respectful of everyone's time, but I'm sure that everyone might like the answer to this question. And I guess I have to unmute Mike, don't I?
Unmute Mike.
Let me find him. Hold on here. Mike, where are you? There you are. Okay, Mike, we should be able to hear you now.
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, Mike.
Hi, John.
Hello.
And Stacy. My suggestion for folks, number one, they'll want to make sure that they have the 2018 SHRM learning system and not a prior year version. And then secondly, I would say in any kind of study plan, you'll want to spend more time reading in depth in the areas in which you may not necessarily have a lot of experience. You may not necessarily have be using a lot of the terminology. As you go through the learning system, you're going to find that SHRM has done an amazing job at standardizing the profession, at standardizing terminology. And so it's going to be very important when you're sitting for the exam that you're familiarized with that terminology, that you understand the definitions, that you understand those different terms. And I would say go through the information and in the workplace, organization, or people sections where you may not have a tremendous amount of experience. For example, there's a lot of HR folks in the classes that I hold that are in organizations where training and development is a carve-out. It's its own standalone department, and therefore the HR person does not have a lot of hands-on, does not have a lot of practical expertise in the training and development. So I encourage them to spend extra time in that section to make sure that they're familiarized. Same thing with any organization where you have large carve-out, standalone subdivisions or specialties in HR. You would want to spend some extra time in those specialties if it's not something that you're doing every day.
Great, Mike. The other thing I would add is when you purchase the learning system, part of what you get is an online assessment tool. So you can actually take this assessment tool and it will say, okay, of the 9 competencies based on how you've answered these questions, I'm rock solid on these 3. Here's 2 that I have some knowledge on. Here's a couple more that I really need to go deep because I'm pretty light on those. And so that also will help you determine the areas that you should focus in on.
Absolutely, John. And one of the things that we'll talk about in the online orientation on July 27th is helping all of the participants really get prepared for that 3-day review in taking assessments, looking at the responses, making sure that they're focusing their time on learning where they really need the strength build and not focusing on areas where they already have strong bench strength. We want to make sure that they really go into this test as a broad scope generalist and have the best opportunity to pass.
Great. Great.
Perfect. Thank you both. I realize that we are at about 12:20, and so I would like to invite everyone that's on the call. As I said, we will be sending out the slides to you, and we will also be I'll also send you a direct link to the class for registration so that you'll have that. And if there are questions, there are some questions that have come in that have not been answered yet. We will do our best to get those questions answered and sent out to you. And if you have additional questions, feel free to respond to the email that we're going to send out, and you can send them to us. And again, we will respond to those individual questions. So on that note, I think I'm going to say thank you all. Thank you, especially John. I really appreciate you taking the time to participate in today's webinar. Thank you, Mike, for joining the call. Appreciate you taking the time to do that as well, because you did not have to. And we love that you are a good friend of PIHRA, and we're looking forward to seeing you both at the California HR conference in August.
Thanks, Stacy.
Great. Thank you, Stacy.